Hi, welcome to the channel. You may have seen that Warhammer Old World has blown up on YouTube, and all those dedicated channels are finally getting the traffic that they deserve. And I think it's brilliant. I joined Warhammer in 2021 and I've got no nostalgia for the game, but I'm already hooked and building a 3D printed dwarf army. I mean, why not? I don't want to build metal models and there are no other models to buy. I don't know how I'll get on with the game, or who I'll play against. For this video I'm going to cover everything you need to know if you're coming from 40k to the Old World in under 6 minutes. Some things of note. The game is based on the source mechanics of 7th edition 40k and before. This also includes Horus Heresy. It means you get a big rulebook, have a complicated game, and a rubbish index so you can't find what you want. I recommend using the site New Recruit as an army builder that includes the unit rules, so it's a great companion to playing and learning. You'll probably see battle reports using open tables with armies lined up on opposite sides of the board. This represents old style army combats nicely, but the rulebook contains terrain rules so you can make the board more interesting. Battles are normally won by the player who has killed the most. The use of rank and file is important in the game, and affects movement and combat for example. Movement trades are essential as forms part of playing. There are 5 model types which have special rules that are used throughout all the phases of the game: infantry, cavalry, chariots, monsters and war machines. There are lots of overlapping special rules. When considering a unit made up with lots of special models, you may need to know all the special rules in play to be able to use that unit to its fullest. Units must adopt a formation, and this applies special rules. It's possible to change the formation during a game, and some armies have their own over and above the core ones. An example is close and open order, close order being the most common. Models have directional arcs depending on which way they're facing. Things are only visible if they're in the front arc of a model. You can only shoot and charge visible opponents. Be careful showing your back to an enemy, as there are lots of nasty side effects possible. To be able to target something, it uses true line of sight, but other models, units and terrain can block it. For a unit in a ranked formation, only the front rank can see. Being partially obscured can also affect shooting and saving. A little bit about magic. Magic is well integrated into the game. You can cast a spell to buff, debuff or attack other models. You roll 2d6 and add your wizard's level to the roll to see whether the cast goes off. Opponents can try and dispel to stop them working. There's loads of types of magic and spells, and they vary by faction, so it's a complicated but cool bit of the game to learn. Now looking at the game phases, the command phase. This is where characters can use their special abilities at the start of a round, and they can influence your army in various ways. Wizards can cast some spells. Movement. There's lots of types of movements. You've got standard, which is just moving in a straight line. You can march, which is a triple move, but then you can't shoot a charge. You can wheel. Now that's pivoting on an edge and moving. The outside model movement distance is measured. You can turn up to 90 degrees using a quarter of your move to do so. You can move sideways and that takes up half your move. You can redress the ranks, that's swapping models around in the ranks. This can use up to half your movement to do so. You can reform. This is to change direction up to 180 degrees and swap models and ranks, but you can't do anything further. Charging. You can only finish a move within 1 inch of an opponent if you've charged them. You charge in the movement phase, you roll 2d6, keep the highest, and add your movement characteristic. Cavalry units can charge further by adding an additional d6 to the movement. When being charged, you can take one of 3 reactions. You can hold, and that gets a bonus in combat. Stand and shoot, it's a bit like Overwatch, but not always available if the charge distance is short. And flee, which is turning around and moving away 2d6 inches, but remember, showing your back to the enemy is bad news. Shooting. Magic attacks can be performed now. Each model must have line of sight and range to the target to shoot. You can only hurt models that are in line of sight and range. For hit rolls, you roll a d6 and compare it to your ballistic skill, and there can be lots of negatives to be applied. Weapons can have template attacks which are auto-hitting and scatter, like in 7th edition 40k. Only models wholly under the template are hit. Anything partially touched, you have to roll 4+ to hit. Rolling to wound is very familiar. You compare the weapon strength to the target's toughness. This again is similar to 7th edition 40k. If it matches, you need a 4. If it's 1 better or 1 worse, it's 3s or 5s. If it's 2 better or 2 worse, it's 2s or 6s. If the toughness of the target is higher by 6 or more, you can't wound it. Saving's familiar as well. Every model has an armor save. Roll this to save damage. If the weapon has AP, this modifies the armor save. It's possible to not have a save against an attack. There's such a thing called a ward save. Some armies or characters have special abilities to give out this ward save. This is a save roll that can't be modified. My favourite phase, combat. Who hits first in combat depends on who has the highest initiative. Charging and charging the side or rear of an opponent gives pluses to initiative. It's possible to hit first, kill models, and the opponent has no one to hit you back. Not every model in the unit can fight. Often models in base contact and the first rank can. The second rank of models can also make supporting attacks. Supporting models only have 1 attack though. Attacking in combat, you roll to hit, wound and save, the same as in shooting. The opponent gets to fight after you've done so. After the combat is finished, you work out who won. This is based on calculating a score and the highest wins. You add the number of wounds you inflicted to various bonus a unit has for combat. It's actually possible to lose more wounds in combat, but still win overall because of the bonuses. On a drawn combat, you stayed locked together. If there's a loser, then they must take a break test. This is a 2d6 roll plus a value of how much they lost combat by, and they compare it against their leadership. It's possible, depending on how badly you lost the combat, to flee or fall back in good order. When a losing unit moves away from combat, you can choose to stay still or you can chase after them. If you catch an enemy and they're facing away from you, as in they're fleeing, you can sweep and destroy all the remaining models. Leadership tests. At various times you have to take a leadership test. For instance, if you lost more than 25% of your models in a phase, this is called a panic test. You roll 2d6 and you try and get less than or equal to your leadership. When failing a panic test, you can either fall back in good order or flee. Fleeing is the same 2d6, and if you flee off the table edge, the unit is destroyed. And that really does cover all the rules for how to play the old world. It doesn't seem as complicated as I first thought. But there are lots of other faction and unit specific rules, but that's all the fun of getting the book and reading it. I'll see you again soon. Bye.